Good evening, and thank you for joining me. Today is Saturday, November 15th, 2025, and we have quite a bit to talk about, especially for the West Coast. Here in New York, got some rain, some lake effect snow coming in later tonight and tomorrow. We got some lake effect rain and higher elevation snow. About 1 to 3 inches for Oswego, about 4 to 5 for Fulton, possibly up to a foot of snow, maybe a bit more towards the Tug Hill Plateau in the higher elevations. But the top story this evening and tomorrow will be the upper level system bringing heavy rain, heavy snows, and the potential for mudslides, especially in the Pacific Palisades area that was scorched by the wildfires this past summer. These fires were really bad in May and June, devastating large swaths just west of Los Angeles. The Pacific Palisades fire is one of the worst fires in California history. And as we go forward in time, we can see this area of low pressure develop, bringing heavy rain. And right on the heels of this upper level system, a second storm will come in, bringing more rain. I mean, look at these very low heights going down to 53 to 86. That will bring in some cold air and some snows. Lower heights almost always correlates to colder air loft, some of that coming down to the surface. Even with the moderation of the Pacific Ocean, you'll get a lot of snow in the higher elevations, especially Sierra Nevadas, and even some snows in the higher elevations in the San Bernardino Mountains. And also in the LA Hills, you might get some snow as well, mainly in the form of mixing. As we go forward in time, things will seem to calm down, but then there will be the threat of severe weather Wednesday night into Thursday, and then Thursday into Friday. And then as we go forward in time, things will calm down. We'll get some cold air over the upper Midwest and the Great Plains, typical La Nina pattern. And then right on Friday, I mean, this is going a little forward in time, so this probably won't happen, but the model is hinting at a potential for a northern Great Plains snowstorm, including for Denver. And look at that Arctic blast. I mean, this is a Arctic blast with temperatures probably not getting out of the teens, with single digits and even sub-zero temperature for lows if this transpires. But of course, this is talking about 13 days down the line, and a lot can change between now and then. So let's not say that this is going to happen. Just a possibility. This is just the operational run. And looking at this, if this transpires, this will be a rain event for New York, mixing north. I mean, this could start out as mixing in the city, but of course, you're talking about the first week of December. So still, you're talking about 15 days out. So very unlikely. But let's look at your total precip accumulation to see who's going to get the most rain going out to hour 384, 15 days out. So your hot spot is going to be here in Texas. So you could be getting some flooding here, especially on Thursday. So that severe weather outbreak, that could come with some flooding. And this could be a drought buster here for California, because right now in Southern California, you're in moderate to severe drought, and even some extreme drought in Arizona. And based on what the models are showing, this could potentially alleviate the drought a little bit. But after that, not much more rain. Very little. I mean, they're showing some sort of upper level system here, and then not much more rain after that. Reason for this is you're getting a ridging pattern building in, which is known as a positive PNA. Normally correlates to a warm PDO, but right now the PDO is actually leaning on the cold side, meaning that more rain is possible for California this coming winter, which is good news. And also we're in a La Nina pattern, which normally favors troughiness on the west coast and the upper Midwest and ridging on the east. As we go forward in time, looking at the 500 millibar heights, about 20,000 feet up, You can see this upper level system and then a second upper level system. So this is a what is known as a cutoff low. And then it rejoins the jet stream, and there's that same cutoff flow that brought all that rain, that's bringing all that rain right now and tomorrow, California. A little piece of that right here. You can see that remnant of that up cutoff flow, and then passes right over New York. Probably not even doing much, but giving some light showers. Yeah, there it goes. That's that little upper level piece right there. Yep. It basically just becomes a short wave, and then you get another cutoff flow right here. Look at that cutoff. See how it cuts off, tries to cut off. Yep, it becomes a cutoff flow right there. It becomes a cutoff flow. Now you get two of these cutoffs, and then this apparently, and then the model says it's going to split, and you're going to get two cutoffs, one off California and one going from the Midwest to New York. And this is about when you get the severe weather in Texas. That's when the models are hinting on heavy rain and severe weather. Yeah, this definitely could bring severe weather. And then get that second cutoff flow, a little more vigorous. Look at the wind barbs. You can see this is now becomes a shortwave trough as it rejoins the jet stream. Seeing if it brings any precip, probably a little bit. It's definitely going to bring some rain. Yeah, right here. See, it becomes a little bit of a surface low and brings some light, moderate precip. All right, and remember that when I was showing you the precip, it showed like a little low pressure signature right there. It cuts off, it meanders, and then it rejoins. And then, as we go forward in time, a big cold outbreak. It tries to come down, but it has trouble. I mean, this is the 18Z, so let's see what the 12Z is showing. Usually, the ones on every 12 of the hour instead of every 6 of the hour are more accurate. So the 12Z and the 0Z are usually more accurate. So let's see. Yeah, this looks pretty impressive right here. This could be a big rainmaker for Monday night. Yeah, that's a coastal low right there. Pretty strong one. You see how it just forms? That's a pretty strong coastal system. Yeah, I mean, that is a surface low. So intense that it's building up in height. It's even being shown in the 500 millibars. So yeah, that's the surface low. There is already a surface low, I bet, by this point. And right here, yeah, that's what is known as a polar vortex. All right, this is the here now, and then you get right around 240s when the coastal low should start to form, probably right around the New England area. Yeah, this is right now. We're getting rain now. This is about zero. It's about between here and here. And there's you get your lake effect rain and snow. Even though your heights are very low, keep in mind the lakes are still very warm. So if you're right on the lake, you'll probably be getting a mix of rain and snow. And if you're in Syracuse, you'll probably be getting all snow. Like Oswego will be getting a mix. And then as we go forward in time, as I said, around 240s when that coastal low forms. Yep, there we go. There's that coastal low. This will be a pretty big snowstorm for New Brunswick, especially the inland portions. Yep. Tongue of snow there, and you get your lake effect. And then you get a back storm around 240, parts of Nova Scotia. And yep, as we go forward in time, looking at the drought monitor, so we have 7 areas of severe drought to talk about. Area 1, Area 2, Area 3, Area 4, Area 5, Area 6, and Area 7. Very rare and unusual for Maine to have severe drought. Even in the Midwest here, it's pretty unusual to have severe drought as well. It's more common in the deep south, especially the southwest, Texas and the southwest and the west coast to have severe and exceptional. but the Northeast, especially Maine, it's very rare. This is about once in a generation event, maybe once or twice in a generation event. Reason for this is there's been a lack of systems. This is common with La Niñas, which we're in right now. Normally the Northeast is pretty dry in a La Nina pattern. The South and the Northeast are dry. So areas from here, Midwest, the drought should erode as the La Nina kicks in, with the storm pattern be through the Midwest. While here in the Northeast, it's equal chances. So now we're going to talk about sea surface temperature anomalies. So we have I would say a weak to moderate La Nina. However, in Nino region 1, you have a pretty intense La Nina. If you look closely at the sea surface temperature anomalies, if you look really closely, let me actually zoom into about 200%. Let's zoom in here. Right there, you see the little patch of bluish and even purple. So that's about -4 to -5 degrees Celsius. That's very intense. That's very strong La Nina. But that's only in one tiny area, and then you got some upwelling here, about -4 to -5. There's a little bit of a black coloration, which means a little colder than -5. That's probably just some upwelling due to a cold front passing through, or just some runoff from thunderstorms, but not to do with tropical activity. There you can see some cold fronts, and we've got a little cold water anomaly just south of Long Island. Let me just reset this. There we go. And looking at sea surface temperature anomalies in the Labrador Sea, this is quite impressive. I mean, if you're a snow lover in the Northeast, you always want to see this warm anomaly here. And you want to see warm waters here. I mean, you want to see this dipole, cold and warm anomaly, a little bit further southwest. You want to see warm here and cold here. So right now I'm going to show you a little animation. I'm going to animate this. Let's look at, see, this is the contour chart. Let's look at global. See if I can do a animation. So let's look at the last 90 days. This is, even though it's warm here, this is more indicative of a cold PDO. Cold PDO starts developing right here. There, cold PDO starts developing. Yeah. But it's kind of mixed. It's kind of a hybrid between cold and warm. But then you get a warm AMO type situation developing here. That's great if you want snow. So by the looks of it, I'm going to forecast average to slightly above average snow for the Northeast, especially for New York City to Boston. Average to slightly above average. So I'm expecting for New York City between 25 and 35 inches of snow, and about 40 to 60 for Boston. Again, this is not exactly what will happen, but what could most likely happen. Of course, forecasts are always subject to change, and nothing is set in stone. So do not take my word for it, as the weather can change just like that. And just like computer models, you can't rely solely on one factor. This is just one factor. Another factor is Siberian snow cover, which, according to Dr. Judah Cohen, if any of you follow him, he says, this is to quote Dr. Judah Cohen, who I've talked to and watched some of his videos. He says, as goes October, a Siberian October, goes the Northern Hemisphere in winter. So here's how Siberia started out. Well above normal snow cover early in October, then started dropping back to normal towards the middle end of October and the beginning of November, back to average. So this is telling me and telling Dr. Judah Cohen that he's expecting an average winter. Because that impacts the polar vortex. Normally, when you get a lot of snow in October, this weakens the polar vortex. Because you get a lot of cold in Siberia in October, This makes the polar vortex weaker towards winter, which leads to frequent cold air outbreaks. If you have a very strong polar vortex, you would actually have warmer temperatures at the mid latitudes. You know, when they say, oh, polar vortex coming down, that's because it's weak, it's disruptive, so pieces of it are breaking off. A volcanic eruption, especially in the spring or summer, would actually lead to a very strong polar vortex. That is why in the winter of 2019-2020, the when everyone remembers the pandemic in March, there was very little snow that winter. All the other factors, the North Pacific dipole, the sea surface temperature anomaly in Labrador, the snow cover in Siberia, all were pointing towards this winter being very cold and snowy. And then came along a little known volcano right here known as Raikoke, uh, spelled Raikoke, formerly administered by Japan up to World War II, now administered by Russia. But it still goes by its Japanese name of Raikoke. It was a VEI4 eruption, so not remarkable, but keep in mind the stratopause is lower at these latitudes than over the tropics. The tropopause here, at which altitude where the stratosphere and the tropopause meet, or the troposphere, the tropopause is where the troposphere meets the stratosphere, is over 60,000 feet, about 62 to 65,000 near the equatorial regions. Up here, in around that time the eruption happened, it's in the 40s to 50,000s. In the winter, the tropopause is even lower. It's down to around 30,000 feet. So this eruption shot ash up to over 60,000 feet, so there was significant injection of sulfuric aerosols into the stratosphere, and there was a lot of sulfur being spread out everywhere over the northern hemisphere. Even in Florida, where the tropopause is higher, because the ash particles were still spread higher over the tropopause. Because even though the tropopause here was in the 50s thousands, like between 40s and 50s, the tropopause here is about 60,000 feet in the summer, but still you saw volcanic sunsets all over the northern hemisphere. Even in the tropics, there were volcanic sunsets in August, especially August, September, October, and November. Those 4 months, there were amazing volcanic sunsets all over the northern hemisphere. It was stupendous, and it was for months. The amount of stratospheric injection was comparable to a mid-end VEI5 eruption occurring in the tropics. About 5 to 10 cubic kilometers. So there was a pretty good injection of sulfur into the stratosphere. And because of that, you had a very positive Arctic oscillation for most of the winter, meaning your mid-latitudes were warm, but your Arctic was very cold. And because he still had some of that sulfur spinning around, even the next summer, guess what happened on May 9th, 2020? You got snow. So that could happen. But of course, that's going off on a little tangent. Let's get back on the focus. So I'm still forecasting 25 to 35 inches of snow for New York City, which is a bit more than New York City got last couple winters and a bit more than last winter. But there are several factors of why I'm thinking this, especially the dipole. It's not as pronounced as last year, or it's actually showing slightly more neutral. But this is a major contributor. Why I'm thinking it's going to be average to maybe even slightly above. The fact you got a warm AMO, meaning you could get as kind of a zonal flow, but with a negative North Atlantic oscillation. So you might get a bit of a blocking component this winter. That could help storms produce some snows along the coast. So we could get a flow something like this. Instead of them going really far down and up the coast like that, we might get a more zonal flow, where you get storms going down to the mid-Mississippi Valley and then you got secondary storms forming along the coast and then riding up. So that's what could be happening this winter. So New York City is going to be basically a wintry battle zone between rain and snow, mix, that kind of thing. So looking slightly further inland, for Buffalo, with your lake effect, I'm forecasting about 80 to 100 inches. With Hamburg, about 150 inches, because your lake effect events. Syracuse, I'm forecasting between 80 and 100 inches. Oswego, about 80 to 100. Actually, Syracuse, maybe up to 120. Fulton, New York, up to about 140 inches. And Mexico, around 200. Mexico usually gets those really strong bands that come in right off the lake. Mexico, New York. That's Oswego County, where I used to live. All right. So I don't have any ability to make maps, but it's entirely possible that the South could get another winter weather event like last year. But what happened last January was very unprecedented, very unusual, once in a lifetime event. Probably will not happen again for a very long time. Something like this has not happened in Louisiana for over 100 years. So to say for this to happen again this year, it's almost slim to none. So please do not get your hopes up for snow lovers living in the South. I mean, you never know, but please do not get your hopes up. I would say if you're anywhere north of I-10, you get a chance. But your greatest chance of getting snows is definitely going to be the Northeast, your higher elevations in the West Coast, and of course the Great Lakes region and Upper Midwest. But that'll be mostly from those storm systems coming in off the Pacific and then kind of riding down. This year, Clipper systems won't be that much of a factor. For Clipper systems, you want more of a dipole and a neutral end. So right now we're kind of trending in La Nina territory. For Clipper systems, you want something more like this. I mean, we'll definitely get a couple Clippers. This year, like last year, is kind of conducive for Clippers. We did have a few Clipper systems last year that brought some pretty strong winds to the Syracuse area, so that could happen again this year. But you'll be on the warm side instead of the cold side in the Clippers until that cold air comes through. So you might be getting rain instead of snow. I'm not expecting a 2013, 2014, 2014, 2015 type repeat. For that, you need a very strong dipole, here being warm and right here being cold. You want where my cursor is to be cold. So let's see if the dipole moves further west. That's what you want. You want that cold dipole to actually move west instead of just staying where it is right now. And if that North Pacific dipole, NPD, to move further west, which is more indicative of a warm phase of the PDO, then yeah, you could get some wintry shenanigans along the East Coast, especially the New England area, from those Clipper bombs that bomb out as they hit the warm waters of the Atlantic. So a lot could change within the next month, but pretty unlikely. Thank you for watching, and have a great day, everyone. I'll make another video this week, and now that I have more free time, I'll be uploading more regularly instead of just being unscheduled. It'll be more of a scheduled now.